We have Dreamland by ZHU.
It is 12 songs, 45 minutes long, 44, 50, 96, so 45 minutes long.
Yeah, and so ZHU,
we redid Ringo's Desert, I almost want to say Ringo's Desert Part 1 and 2 a few years ago on Audioface. And ZHU's been an artist we both thoroughly enjoy.
He made a really big name for himself in the early 2013-14s, doing like different things, blending neo-pop, R&B, and also like electronic music together in a really nice way with like, electronic music, but also kind of going into like a deeper sort of perspective and things, or a deeper sort of way the sound would go. This album, this album through like other different projects he's done, seems to me like a slower and darker turn to it.
Yes.
But I also like the sort of growth as an artist, because I definitely appreciate that it sounds different from other things I've worked on. Like I can start with a couple of songs, like Lost It and Distant Lights. You start to get to really
it's a dark, it sets you off in a slow, dark theme, which I like as kind of a pivot for him going into, because he did a lot of stuff before that was more upbeat. Like Ringo's Desert had some hints of this more darker stuff, but it didn't really explore too much into it.
Yeah.
And it's an album that, both parts, the whole project in its entirety, I liked it a lot. But this is definitely slowed down throughout the album. But it's good because it's a change of pace for him, which he needed, because he didn't want to always be, we always say, try and change your sound, do something different as much as you can, try to evolve, and ZHU's definitely doing that.
Yeah, ZHU has been pretty good at doing that, so it's good to see that there's a continuation, because like
even from like 2014 when ZHU became popular doing collaborations with other artists and stuff, and kind of getting up more into that EDM scene when it was really starting to on its rise, at least in America.
Like I remember first hearing about ZHU from the Genesis Series EP in 2015, and then that had an entirely different sound to Generation Y, which had kind of like the softer R&B, like sort of like not R&B, like kind of like pop things, like aspects there, but really like soft, chill, like almost like bedroom pop, I guess. I'm trying to get weird vibes like that. Then you get to Ringo's Desert, which is like an entirely different like Burning Man vibe, kind of like raver thing. And then you get Dreamland. I think it's a good evolution of all of that combined. But it's like, but like in having that same energy, it does a really clever thing where it's mellow but still feels energetic.
Yeah, well, because Lost It sets you into that dark theme. Distant Lights sounds like a ZHU. That is like a perfect ZHU track in its way. Like you listen to it without any context, even without knowing who it is, you're like, oh, that's ZHU for sure. But it sets you up into that more darker, slower theme and everything. And I really, really enjoyed Distant Lights. So I'm like, okay, this is gonna suck me into the album for sure.
Yeah. Why?
Round 2, baby.
Yeah. We are not connecting to Bluetooth here. There we go.
Rip.
But yeah, when you get to How Does It Feel, which was a very interesting song, at least for me, listening to me, because it sounded like a blend of a lot of what Channel Trace's stuff has sounded like, which through all the collaborations, I feel like we've heard almost a full album from Channel Trace in the past year. But speaking of those collaborations, he did a song with Disclosure, Lavender. This sounds a little bit like that, but even more so, it sounds like Synth Pop.
It reminded me a lot of Synth Pop from Disclosure, and I was like, but that's Channel Trace, right? And I looked, I was like, no, it's not.
Yeah, it's ZHU-y enough, especially like the little guitar twang in the background to like make it work, but especially adding Channel Trace there, I wonder if like ZHU and Disclosure are like walking through the proverbial classroom passing notes. I mean, especially during a lockdown, it probably didn't happen, but they're quite similar. They're decent songs.
Yeah, but then after that you go to Sky is Crying, which is one of my favorite songs of the year.
Whoa,
really,
what?
Really fucking love Sky is Crying.
Wow.
I don't know why, but it's just one of those songs I listened to because I heard it as a single before, but I couldn't talk about it much. And then in the context of the album, I really, really, really like it. It's one of those tracks where, because with ZHU, at least for me personally, is an artist that I'll like, but in variations or so. I'll like in a little bit of dabble. It's like wasabi, you put a little bit of wasabi, too much, like too floof, too little, and it's not enough. But you only like it in certain situations. But Sky is Crying is a track I can listen to any time of day, any night, whatever. I could listen to that all day long.
That's really good. That's good, especially because I guess I'm really holding myself back because I've realized in like listening to this album and other people talk to me about it that I've seen ZHU live 3 or 4 times.
Yeah. I have it.
Yeah. So I guess I'm accidentally a huge ZHU fan. So Sky's Crying, I guess it is like one of the larger hits from the album so far. It does sound really good, but it's just like a really solidly produced Zoo track.
It's a really nice
track.
electronic track and everything. This is the thing that is giving me a lot of hope for EDM of this year, of that more crisper sound, but it's not cookie cutter per se. And there's more artists and stuff who are trying to push forward their sound and their ideas, which is good. So.
As a Zoo fan, though, yeah, like this, I was getting through the album even on second listen. And I was like, this sounds very, very like, it doesn't even sound as, a lot of Zoo things play well very live. They're very clubby. They work really well. But you get to the second half of the album and it works a little bit better because I say you get a little piece of it in Sky is Crying and a little piece of it like in Yours. But halfway through Soko,
Soko is a pretty cool track.
Soko's pretty interesting. It begins like the first half, like I guess it's like a Zoo crooning thing that he does, and a lot of early stuff that has worked, but especially now, like especially Generation Y was a lot of Zoo crooning. This is kind of it returns because it's like a slower kind of thing. But halfway through Soko, it sort of switches to more of the stuff that he does like in nightclubs and dances and stuff like that, which are really fun. Which kind of leads into Only, which was the single that I had heard before. Dreamland 2021 probably came out as an album.
I heard as well.
Yeah. Also pretty good, and I think it's the best blend of old Zoo and new Zoo.
Yes, yeah. I think Only is a good representation of what the whole album is, even though it's like the lead single off of it. Normally lead singles only give you like a teaser of what it is, and like that context doesn't make sense. It's a good single for it, showing, hey, this is basically the entire sound of the album, but there's a lot more substance within there that you're going to want to listen, and this is one of the best things of it. I really like Only as well. I really like the placement of Soko and on Only because that gives you, again, as you said, the older Zoo with the newer style and everything in that as well, and it's more dancey for sure. Because that was my biggest surprise with that first half of the album. Like you can play some of it at a club or here or there, but Sky is Crying isn't this track per se. You could do it, but you have to remix it a little bit if you want to have a lot of atmosphere, unless you just want to have a really chill environment. So that's something that I like because it's not all just club bangers, club hits all the time, which is good.
It can get kind of repetitive if you do that.
It can, exactly.
I kind of vaguely remember like parts of like the second half of Soko and definitely parts of Studio 54 being played and performed and tested live because I remember these bangers and they were really good live. And I like them.
Studio 54 reminds me of a Bane That from Disclosure.
Yeah, I will also say that.
And that's a track that originally I hated when I first listened to it, but over the years I have learned to actually really enjoy it, and seeing it live was fun as hell.
Yeah.
So.
You have Good For You featuring Coda the Friend, who's also very good on his own. And I guess there were a lot of songs on here that were sleeper songs. Like I guess if you say Sky is Crying, Good For You is also pretty good as well.
One either second or third favorite after Soko for me on the album. Really, really enjoyed Good For You.
Yeah, this isn't definitely an album that gets better with listens.
Well, because the thing with Good For You is like at like the last little bit, it's like a straight up garage techno rave, which is like for me as like a UK head, I love that stuff. At the end, I was like, oh my god, this is when you're just like bouncing off the walls, not knowing what your hands, you're just going mental. That's what it sounds like. Almost sounds like a Scream DJ set from a decade ago, which is a good thing.
Yeah. You Need That, which is also like I Need That being the last song on the album.
Right.
But no, it's overall very good. I could definitely say, especially from like older Zoo fans and listeners, it might seem kind of understated when you first kind of listen to it, but like Generation Y, it definitely like grows on you with its depth and sort of the emotional reaches that it has. It's good that like, Zoo didn't try to like over-producer continued doing something. He took kind of a route that Porter Robinson did of like, I'm willing to pare back my sound a little bit. I think Porter Robinson did like a totally different kind of thing. I'm not comparing them like directly.
They're very different projects.
But they both kind of decided to scale back the like big production EDM and for favor of doing something that felt more artistically normal for them, right?
Yeah.
So overall, I think it's a pretty good project, and it gets better with listens. Arbitrary scale this week, as we do every week on Audioface, because a lot of actual scales that lie to you as though they're actual numerical and make sense, they are actually presented in an arbitrary way, and so we just get rid of all the footing there. We get rid of all the magic and the curtains and all the bullshit, and we just give it an arbitrary scale. This week it's going to be menthol cigarette brands because apparently those are going to be banned in the United States, essentially. And I'm gonna give these. What are the Marlboro Black editions
Marlboro Black
that you
editions?
can get in Japan?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's yeah. That's a good one. I was gonna say this is just like a solid Newport pack. Like open up every
Crisp
cigarette
pack of
is
Newport
crisp,
12.
like a solid pack of Newport 12s. Like you're good to go.
Yeah, something you have just like after the club.
Yeah, exactly.
Listening to something like ZHU.
But then the guy next to you has Camels. You look at him, you're like pleb.
American Spirits. What is this? 2013.
Oh Christ alive.